your family story?
The very last days of First Color Circus is this the story of my great grandparents, Ollie Thomas and Ruby Dyson from La Plata, Maryland. It's basically a love story to them, and also a love story to the town of La Plata and the surrounding areas about how my family settled there and raised families there on a little bit of nothing, but what we had a lot of was just love, love and passion for just living.
And they owned a circus?
Well, they were performers. They were performers. Some of the storyline is, of course, put together and exaggerated as being a playwright. But they were performers. They loved music. They loved to dance. And even when they didn't have much, you can still go down to my grandmother's place now, which is still existing, where Ollie and Thomas actually met at. It's called Mary Barnes' Place, and it's about 8 acres of land that's been in our family since the early 1900s. That we have kept. It's not nothing special, but it means a lot to us as a family member, as family. So we just keep it, hold on to it. And Ollie and Thomas resided here one time in Maryland.
So tell me what this play is about.
It's a love story. It's a love story about Ollie and Ruby, and it's also a love story to all the artists that came before us and the artists who are going to come after us. That it's how hard it is to be a black performer now, even now in 2017, and just that the passion of the arts and how as African Americans what we have to go through to just do the things that we love to do, what we feel that we are born to do.
And so, what were some of the challenges they faced?
Besides racism, which is probably the biggest thing, not having any means to do what you want to do, knowing, gaining respect from your peers, and that's something that we still go through right now. It's Restoration Stage. We've been around for 10 years now, and we're just starting to get noticed by the other theater companies here in the DC area. So the story is really about this drive and perseverance and pushing on and doing things, doing it just because you love it, not because it always makes you money.
And so your great-great-grandparents, they met performing?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
And they performed, did they perform in a circus?
They performed at the Charles County Fair, which is still up and running. I think it started in 1924. They have a princess pageant called the Queen Nicotina pageant, which is part of our play as well. That still goes on to today. So it's almost 100 years old, if not 100 years old, the Charles County Fairground. And at one point, it was this elaborate thing that the whole state got involved in. It's a lot smaller now, but back in the early 1900s, we were talking about ambassadors from foreign countries, and it was a huge to do.
And was this, where they performed, was it just Black people only? They performed in I guess, all Black cast. And what exactly did they do when they performed?
A little bit of everything. There was blackface, there was instrumentation, there was vocals, there was dance. But yes, it was a small group of traveling African American performers. Yes.
And they performed at the circus and I guess other venues.
Right, New York City, jazz clubs, things like that. But in the early 1900s. And it's just the history is not written, so it's just passed on from our generation, from one grandparent or one great uncle to another, telling the story about Ollie and Ruby Thomas and how they settled in the play and how our family has been there now for generations.
And they met performing, like you said.
Yes.
Did they meet in Maryland, or they met?
They met in Maryland.
Okay.
They actually did meet in Maryland, and it's just their love story hasn't been told, and they've been gone now since I think Ollie Thomas passed away in the 50s, and Ruby, his wife, passed away in the early 60s, and they are now it's unmarked graves. We can't find them. We as a family look for them, look for their graves. We know where they're buried at, but it's just a small Black church that Ollie Thomas, when he gave up his ringmaster hat, became a very instrumental part of the church there. They call it Shiloh Baptist Church, and he was a big he had a big part of making that church stay alive and keep going today.
So what does this play mean to you?
It's just history. We didn't plan to do it during Black History Month, but I think it's special because every history is not. Black history doesn't have to be big. It's not always about Martin Luther King and Medgar Evers. It's also going to be about just our families and what we've been through as personal, just surviving. I think for us and for me, it's just important to tell our stories because we have a tendency to be ashamed of our history, and we shouldn't be ashamed of it. And if we do not tell the next generation of what we went through as African Americans, then they won't learn from it. Then they won't know. what's around the corner or what could happen to them if they don't, depend on history to teach them the lessons that our forefathers taught us.
And so, a circus. I mean, what is a circus supposed to be? Like, you could tell with one of your actors there just talking about how a circus is supposed to be happy. It's supposed to be
Right. It's just like theater. A circus is escapism. It's that hour and a half or 2 hours of your life where you don't have to worry about your bills or relationships or illnesses and things like that. You can come into a circus tent and just, take a sigh of relief and just enjoy and just be entertained. And we still do that today with movies and football games and things like that. But a circus is supposed to be just a sense of release. And it's sad that the last circus, Ringling Brothers, is closing down this year, and that's it. We don't have any more. We do have the Universal Soul Circus, but a circus is always a part of our childhood. It's cotton candy, cotton candy, candy apples. It's a shame that part of our life is going to be gone and not passed on to our kids.
And so it's fun, it's laughter, it's enjoyable, but in this particular setting, the people who are putting the smiles on faces and are smiling and are entertaining, they're sort of smiling through
a mask, through a mask, because what you get to see here is what you see behind any production. You get to see what the actors are doing behind the curtain, like as you said, behind the makeup, behind the music, behind the laughter. That it's not always joyous, but what I try to do as a playwright is to explain why we do it. Why being an artist is hard. It's probably one of the most difficult things that you can do. A lot of us went to Howard University, and our parents always questioned, why did you major in fine arts? Or why did you major in music or whatever? And it's because we have to. For us as artists, there's nothing else we want to do in our lives. We don't want to be lawyers or doctors. Even though we have the capacity to do so, it's a burning desire to be an artist. We know going into this field is very hard. And even being a black artist is even harder because the avenues and the opportunities for us are not so there for us, but it's a passion for us.
And so, last question for you. So what does it mean to you to be able to share the story of your great-great-grandparents?
It makes me proud to be able to God put such a talent on me as a writer, because it's a God-given gift to be able to tell their stories. And everyone may not see it, and after the show closes, we may never hear about it again. But I have nieces and nephews and godchildren that can come sit in the audience and learn a little bit about their family. And if I'm making a little bit of history for myself, then so be it.
Any questions?
In a quick sentence or two, or maybe a small paragraph, what is your grandparents' story?
I think my grandparents' story is universal, of a lot of African Americans and a lot of people who just didn't come from a lot of means. It's about love will get you through it all. That forgiveness is the root of that love, and that you only get one moment to do your dream, and you have to do it, regardless of no excuses. It's up to you to fulfill your dreams, and that's what Ali and Ruby Thomas did.
Despite challenges.
Despite everything, they persevered, and I think that's the human spirit. That's if the time was to end today, I would think the legacy of Americans would be that we persevered, that through it all we kept on going.
The last question is, what do you want the audience to take away from this when they leave?
I want them to have a sense of pride in who they are, especially those who look like me when they walk through this tent flap. And I also want, just in general, anyone who comes through there, that never give up on your dreams. It's something that we say here at Restoration Stage, that why wait for someone's no when you can immediately tell yourself yes? And I just think that, believe in yourself before anyone else does. You've got to believe in yourself. And I think that all these performers, all these actors on stage, they believe in themselves, and I think that's probably what I want everyone to take away from the show. Is believe in yourself, believe in love, and that you will overcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.